The air in the dimly lit hotel room felt heavy as I sat on the edge of the bed, divorce papers clutched in my trembling hands. My name is Abigail Hart, and at 35, I was staring down the wreckage of a marriage I'd once believed in, a union built on obligation, not love. Across from me, sprawled carelessly on an armchair, was my soon-to-be ex-husband, Ethan Caldwell. His dark hair was tousled, his tie loosened, and a smug grin played on his lips as he sipped from a glass of bourbon. Just hours ago, we'd buried his father, Henry Caldwell, a man who'd been my rock when my own world crumbled. Yet here was Ethan, yawning through his grief, more interested in the inheritance than the loss. "Sign the papers, Abby," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "I'm taking it all, the company, the estate, everything. Dad's gone, and I don't need you dragging me down anymore." I stared at him, disbelief warring with the anger rising in my chest. "You're joking, right? How can you sit there laughing when we just said goodbye to him?" Ethan leaned forward, his hazel eyes narrowing. "It's no joke. You were Dad's little pet project, his favorite charity case. I only married you because he insisted. Now that he's out of the picture, I'm done playing the dutiful son. Hartwell Automotive is small time compared to Caldwell Industries. I'm taking over and you're out." His words hit like a punch to the gut, but something inside me snapped a thread of patience I'd been clinging to for years. I'd endured his arrogance, his belittling comments, all for Henry's sake. Henry had been more than a father-in-law. He'd been my mentor, my savy, or after my father's death left me drowning in responsibility. But Ethan? He was a leech sucking dry everything his father had built. I wouldn't let him destroy Henry's legacy or mine. "Fine," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging within. "I'll sign. You'll get your divorce. But don't think this is over, Ethan. I'm not the weak little girl you think I am." He chuckled, tossing back the rest of his drink. "Good luck with that tiny factory of yours. It's nothing without my company's contracts. You'll be begging me to take you back in a month." I stood, smoothing my black dress, the same one I'd worn to Henry's funeral, and gathered my suitcase. "We'll see about that," I said, walking out without a backward glance. The door clicked shut behind me, and as I stepped into the cool night air, I made a vow. Ethan Caldwell would regret underestimating me. 8 years earlier, my life had changed forever. I was 27, a mid-level accountant at Hartwell Automotive, a modest company my father, James Hart, had founded in the small town of Willow Creek, Tennessee. We made precision parts for cars, nothing flashy but steady. Then came the accident. A late-night drive, a slick road, a semi-truck that didn't see him in time. Dad was gone, and with him the heart of our family business. Overnight, I went from crunching numbers to sitting in the president's chair, a role I was woefully unprepared for. The first few months were a blur of panic and sleepless nights. Suppliers hounded me, employees whispered about layoffs, and I seriously considered selling the company to escape the pressure. That's when Henry Caldwell stepped in. A towering man with silver hair and a voice like gravel, he'd been my father's best friend since their college days. He ran Caldwell Industries, a sprawling corporation that dwarfed Hartwell, and when he heard about Dad's death, he didn't hesitate. "Abigail," he said, standing in my office doorway with a cup of coffee he'd brought from the diner down the street, "you're not doing this alone. James would have wanted me to help. Henry became my lifeline. He taught me how to negotiate with suppliers, how to read a balance sheet like a story, how to lead when I felt like running." Under his guidance, Hartwell stabilized, then grew. We weren't a giant, but we carved out a niche, supplying parts to major manufacturers across the Southeast. Henry's faith in me gave me confidence I didn't know I had. One evening, about a year after Dad's death, Henry invited me to dinner at his sprawling estate just outside Nashville. The table was set with fine china, and the air smelled of roasted chicken and rosemary. That's when I met Ethan. "Abigail, this is my son Ethan," Henry said, gesturing to a man in his early 30s with sharp features and a disarming smile. "He's running our Knoxville branch. I've told him all about you." Ethan extended a hand, his grip firm but warm. "Pleasure to meet you, Abigail. Dad says you're a natural at this business stuff. Hartwell Automotive, right? That's impressive, taking over so young." I blushed and used to praise. "Thanks. It's a small operation, automobile parts mostly. I'm still figuring it out, but I'm trying to keep my dad's dream alive. Small or not, it's yours, Ethan said, his tone earnest. That takes guts. I'm still learning the ropes myself. Dad's a tough act to follow. He seemed genuine, charming even, and because he was Henry's son, I let my guard down. Over the next few months, we crossed paths often, business meetings, casual lunches. Ethan had a knack for making me laugh, and his compliments felt like sunlight after a long winter. You're stronger than you think, Abby, he'd say, and I'd believe him. 5 months later, he proposed. We were at a quiet Italian restaurant, the kind with checkered tablecloths and candlelight. He slid a ring across the tablet, a simple gold band with a single diamond, and said, Abigail, I've never met anyone like you. You're tough, kind, everything I've ever wanted. Let's build something together. I hesitated. My heart wanted to say yes, but my head warned me to slow down. Still, Henry's approval tipped the scales. Ethan's a good man, he'd told me privately. He'll take care of you. So I said yes, trusting in the family that had saved me. Our wedding was small, held in Henry's garden under a canopy of oak trees. For a while things were good. Ethan was attentive, bringing me coffee in the mornings, planning weekend getaways to the Smoky Mountains. But the cracks appeared fast. It started a month after the wedding. I was in the kitchen of our Nashville condo, chopping vegetables for dinner, when Ethan dropped his first bomb. So, when are you quitting Hartwell? He asked, leaning against the counter with a glass of wine in hand. I froze, the knife hovering over a carrot. Quit? I haven't thought about it. Why would I? He frowned, swirling the wine. We're married now, Abby. I'm a president, sure, just of a branch, but still. You working makes it look like I can't provide. It's embarrassing. I set the knife down, turning to face him. Ethan, Hartwell is my father's legacy. It's not just a job, it's who I am. I can't walk away. He snorted, a sound I'd never heard from him before. Legacy? It's a small-town shop, Abby. Caldwell Industries deals in real business, cars, appliances, the big leagues. Hartwell's a hobby compared to that. The unease I'd felt when we first met, the flicker of judgment in his eyes, came rushing back. I dismissed it as nerves, but now I saw it for what it was. Contempt. He didn't respect my company or me. It's not a hobby, I said, my voice tight. We have employees, partners. It matters, Ethan, even if it's not as big as your world. Employees, partners, come on, he scoffed. It's a speck next to us. You're inexperienced, Abby. That little shop's not gonna survive without someone like me propping it up. His words cut deep, slicing at the pride I'd built under Henry's guidance. I wanted to scream to tell him he was wrong, but I swallowed it down. Let's just eat, I muttered, turning back to the stove. He shrugged and left the room, leaving me with a simmering pot and a growing resentment. The next day he surprised me. I came home from Hartwell to find him in the kitchen, awkwardly stirring a pot of spaghetti sauce. I'm sorry about yesterday, he said, not meeting my eyes. Work's been stressful. I shouldn't have taken it out on you. I made dinner probably terrible, but it's an apology. I softened, the tension easing. Thanks, Ethan. It means a lot. We ate together, and for a while it felt like the old days. But it didn't last. Over the next year, Ethan's mask slipped further. The kind, supportive man I'd married morphed into a cold, critical stranger. He'd mock Hartwell at every turn, "How's your little garage doing?" and question my every decision. One night I came home late from a meeting, exhausted but proud of a new contract I'd secured. Ethan was on the couch, a beer in hand, the TV blaring. "Finally back, Madam President," he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "What, another big meeting at the toy factory?" "I'm sorry," I said, kicking off my shoes. "It ran long. I'll start dinner." He laughed, a harsh grating sound. "Dinner? Were you even working? Or just pretending to be busy? A small-town outfit like yours doesn't need overtime." I bit my tongue and headed to the kitchen, but he kept going. "You act like you're running some empire, Abby. It's pathetic." That night I cooked in silence, the weight of his words pressing down on me. Our marriage became a battlefield, and I was losing ground. 2 years in, Ethan's control tightened. He started leveraging Caldwell Industries' partnership with Hartwell as a weapon. Apologize properly, or I'll pull our contracts, he'd snap after an argument. I can crush your little shop anytime. I hated myself for bending, for begging him to keep the deal alive, but Hartwell's survival depended on it. My employees, people who'd worked for my father, depended on me. So I endured, swallowing my pride to protect them. Then came the call that changed everything. It was a crisp October morning when my phone rang. "Abigail, it's about Henry," said a shaky voice, his housekeeper, Margaret. "He's in the hospital. It's bad." I dropped everything and drove to Nashville General, my heart pounding. Henry was in the ICU, hooked to machines, his face pale against the sterile white sheets. Ethan stood by the window, staring out, his hands in his pockets. "Father-in-law," I whispered, taking Henry's hand. It twitched faintly, or maybe I imagined it. The next morning he was gone. A heart attack, the doctor said, sudden and merciless. The funeral was a somber affair, held at a historic church in downtown Nashville. Hundreds came, employees, friends, business partners, proof of Henry's impact. I wore a simple black dress, greeting mourners with a practiced calm. Then I saw Ethan. As chief mourner, he should have been solemn, respectful. Instead he yawned, checked his phone, even played a game during the ceremony, the tinny sounds cutting through the silence. "Ethan," I hissed, "put that away. This is your father's funeral." He shook me off. "Relax, Abby. It's boring as hell. Let me do what I want." I stared at him, horrified. The man I'd married was gone, replaced by this callous stranger. After the ceremony, as relatives gathered for a meal, he dropped the final blow. "Here," he said, tossing divorce papers onto the table. "Sign them. I'm taking everything, Dad's company, the money, all of it." The room went silent. "You can't be serious," I said, my voice trembling. "Dead serious," he replied, smirking. "Dad's not here to protect you anymore. I don't need you." Something broke inside, minutes sorrow but resolve. "Fine," I said, grabbing the papers. "You'll have your divorce. But you're making a mistake." He laughed. "Mistake? Your company's toast without me. Good luck, Abby." I left that night, checking into a hotel with nothing but a suitcase and a burning determination. The next morning I filed the papers and called my assistant, Lauren. "Emergency board meeting, 10 a.m. Be ready." At Hartwell's headquarters, a sleek, modern building we'd moved into 2 years prior, the boardroom buzzed with tension. My team stood as I entered, a gesture of respect that steadied me. "Thank you for coming on short notice," I said, taking my seat. "As of today, we're terminating all contracts with Caldwell Industries. Review the terms, ensure there's no fallout." Gasps rippled through the room. Caldwell was a major client, but I'd seen the numbers. We'd grown beyond them, and I wouldn't let Ethan hold us hostage anymore. After the meeting, I stared out the window at Willow Creek's rolling hills, whispering, "This is just the beginning." That afternoon, I drove to Caldwell Industries' Knoxville office, a glass and steel tower that screamed wealth. Ethan's secretary ushered me to his office, where he sat behind a mahogany desk, radiating arrogance. "What's this, Abby? Begging for cash already?" he sneered. I smiled, sliding a termination notice across the desk. "No. As of today, Hartwell Automotive ends its partnership with Caldwell Industries." He laughed, then stopped as the words sank in. "You're bluffing. Your little shop can't survive without us." "Actually," I said, leaning forward, "Caldwell accounts for 60 fantram of your revenue. Hartwell employs 12,000 people, with $4 billion in annual earnings. You didn't know, did you? You thought we were just a small-town shop." His face paled as his secretary whispered something confirmation of the numbers. "You're lying," he stammered. "I'm not," I said. "You assumed, Ethan. You mocked me, threatened me, and yesterday you showed everyone who you really are. I won't work with someone I can't trust." "Julie, Abby, wait," he pleaded, desperation creeping in. "We can fix this." "No," I said, standing. "You made your bed. Lie in it." I walked out, his shouts fading behind me. 5 months later, Caldwell Industries was crumbling. Ethan's arrogance had alienated clients, and without Hartwell's business, his revenue tanked. Rumors of mismanagement spread, delayed payments, shady deals. Employees jumped ship, and bankruptcy loomed. One day my phone rang. "Abigail, it's Ethan," came a raspy voice. "Can we meet?" "Tomorrow 4 p.m. my office," I said, hanging up. I knew what was coming. He arrived early, a shadow of the man he'd been, unshaven, suit wrinkled, eyes hollow. "Please," he said, dropping to his knees. "Resume the partnership. My company's dying." I looked down at him, unmoved. "This is your doing, Ethan. You belittled me, insulted my father's legacy, humiliated me at Henry's funeral. There's no going back." He sobbed, begging for his employees, but I shook my head. "You never cared about them. Goodbye, Ethan." As security escorted him out, a man approached Daniel, one of Ethan's former managers. "Ms. Hart, can we talk?" In the conference room, Daniel laid out a plan. He and dozens of Caldwell employees wanted to join Hartwell, bringing expertise and contracts. I smiled. Welcome aboard. 6 years later, Hartwell Automotive soared. We'd expanded to 15,000 employees, opened plants in 3 states, and hit $10 billion in revenue. I'd remarried Thomas, a quiet engineer who'd stood by me through every storm. Our daughter Lily was born last spring, a bright-eyed bundle who'd already stolen my heart. Ethan's story ended differently. Buried in debt due $200 million, last I hard-worked odd jobs, a ghost of his former self. I saw him once bagging groceries and felt a pang of pity I quickly shook off. Standing on the balcony of Hartwell's new Miami headquarters, I looked out at the glittering skyline. "Dad," I whispered, "we did it." The wind carried my words away, and I smiled, ready for whatever came next.